Good morning, everybody. We welcome you to this round table. Please joining in a bit. So thanks for joining. We appreciate the patience. We hope to for an early start. Good morning and welcome to this roundtable on design and funding for the special projects in partnership with the District Skill Committee. Thank you very much for making time for this. I welcome all the foundation and expert organizations to be here for this consultation. The IIM directors, the program directors for the IIM who are looking at the Mahatma Gandhi National Fellowship Program, the Mahatma Gandhi National Fellowship, and first and foremost, these are who is facing this occasion. Also, Madam Joint Secretary and Director Mr. Gupta. So, without much ado, I will request Ma'am to
this opportunity to welcome program directors of IIMs, and I named them Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Kozhikode, Lucknow, Nagpur, Jaipur, Visakhapatnam, Jammu, and Ranchi. I also welcome the chairpersons and founders of Labournet, SELCO Foundation, the Nudge Foundation, Mission Samriddhi, Piramal Foundation, PANIIT, and Ecociate to this consultation meeting for design and rollout of special projects in aspirational, backward, border, and NWB districts. Sir, we also have around 200 odd fellows of engineers who are participating and who will be associated with this program in a big way. At the outset, I would like to just briefly give you a background for the design of these special projects. As you are all aware, Honorable Prime Minister, in his address to the DMs of aspirational districts in January, has spelled out a holistic approach to development of such aspirational and backward districts through a special hand-holding involving a blend of governance, innovation, and technology. I understand that many of the foundations who are present in this consultation today have their boots on the ground, and we hope to understand from them their insights, their experiences, and also what learnings they can share with us in the design of special projects, so that we can plan livelihood promotion and skill training in the district skilling ecosystem in partnership with foundations, with industry, with NGOs, that the local community is empowered, the local needs are taken into account, and the local economy gets boosted. Without much ado, I will request Sir to make his opening remarks.
request Secretary Mr. Rajesh Aggarwal to. Yes. Can somebody please confirm if you can hear us loud and clear?
Yeah, this is Arnab Mukherjee. I can hear very clearly.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Great. Good morning to all. So it is a like brainstorming, but also हम इस दिशा में चलना चाहते हैं, थोड़ा सा उस पर बात करेंगे. The ministry looks upon the
My
whole.
speaker is not working.
So can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Okay. See, the ministry started this MGNF project with a fond hope that we'll have kind of new experimentation with academia, that is IIMs, then the local district machinery, and the DSC consisting of local industrialists also, local NGOs and community also, so that academia, community and industry, bringing them together at the district level and creating a set of people, students, who will get trained in public policy and especially like action research oriented kind of things. Put from academia, but firmly rooted to the ground in the district, working with the district machinery, the local government, the industries department, the skills department, and the local industries, local community organizations, NGOs working for skills and entrepreneurship in the field. And then it was not supposed to be just a sort of academic exercise. It has to result in meaningful execution projects, new projects, meaningful supervision over what things are happening on the ground. But corrective policy actions get suggested that government policy is noble or whatever, or these ideas, causes are not working on the ground. They need policy. So I see a sort of disconnect. It has become an academic exercise where the things are just getting the degrees. So that has to change. And so we also had hoped that the projects which come, the first cut, will be very meaningful and it will show that this connect is working. Academia, industry, government connect is working. Unfortunately, we did not see even 2 good projects out of 34. So we thought we'll throw a few ideas today, get some feedback also. And also that's why we have some other organizations also. In fact, yesterday evening we had a meeting with Honorable Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, where other 3 ministers of state of education were also present. And people from higher education and school education were also present. We were talking of Vision 2047 document, and Prime Minister is addressing all the secretaries of Government of India on 2nd April. And in the meanwhile, I had also interacted with a lot of community organizations working on the ground, the skills entrepreneurship education sector. And the feedback which I gave to Honorable Minister yesterday was that the stakeholder consultation shows that all the skill training programs on the ground, they are creating jobs only for the urban sector. In fact, there is a clause in the DDUJ by Rural Development Scheme that we are training kids for sending them to city. एक तरफ हम आत्मनिर्भर की बात करते हैं. Right from pre-independence days, Mahatma Gandhi was speaking of Atmanirbhar. Now also the Prime Minister is putting a lot of focus on this. We know urbanization is on the uptake, so those things are happening. Does it mean कि हम village economy के लिए कुछ भी नहीं करेंगे? Which programs are suited to the ground, which help in upskilling people or creating fresh skills in rural youth, so that they contribute to village GDP. Village GDP has to increase. Village economy has to increase. तो हमारा संकल्प में प्रोजेक्ट था कि हम पंचायत में 5-5 बंदों को ट्रेन करेंगे, वो जॉब रोल भी ऐसे वो माइग्रेट हो जाएंगे. So now a very big focus in aspirational districts and backward districts is that our skilling programs have to create rural jobs, have to create increase the GDP of the village. in our aspirational districts, backward districts, also tribal districts, we only create or train students to migrate to cities. Those districts will become further backward. So हम कर क्या रहे हैं? They are doing basically damage to the village economy by training people only to migrate to the cities. We need people to migrate to cities. We need people to migrate to Dubai or Europe, but also a lot of projects have to be oriented to the increasing of the village economy. Then we have, so that is important. Whatever projects we get, we are very keen that by April end, we should start very meaningful projects in at least 30-40 of these. Very meaningful projects. Unfortunately, our district plans have become a sigma of training capacity available in the district. People have just taken the training capacity in ITIs and PMKVY and DDU centers. उसका सबमिशन किया और वो बोला ये हमारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लान बना, तो गलत बात है. And everyone knows that our whole training capacity has become a basically lowest capex center. सबने वो चालू कर लिए ट्रेड जहाँ पे capex lowest है, opex भी low है, वो वाले job roles बन गए. And the sigma of that is reflected as district plans, which is absolutely meaningless. Second point also is that we are ending up spending 80,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees, 50,000 on a residential course or 50,000 on a non-residential 3-month course, which results in a 6,000, 8,000 rupees job in a city. That training HR agency is providing 1 week for that 8,000 job role in 3G in the textile sector or as a waiter in Starbucks or Chili's restaurant in Bangalore. Why is taxpayers 80,000 rupees residential training of 3 months? It is taxpayers' money wasted. Plus, if the child could have got that job in 7 days training, that means बच्चे के भी हमने 2.5 महीने खराब किया. The child has lost on wages for 2.5 months. So there is a total disconnect with the reality of the jobs. There is a disconnect between with increasing the rural village GDP based on our skill training and entrepreneurship. So we need a total change in thinking and a total change in action. When we talk of rural economy, yes, the ITIs will be important. Yes, the PMKK centers will be important. EDUJY to some extent. But we have to work very closely with community organizations. There are good NGOs working in the district, good philanthropists working in the district. Kirti Mishra has also put a lot of philanthropy for connecting the district magistrates. And today, such organizations. So basically, it's a grounds up thinking. What kind of training we need to impart to rural youth? Those are the kind of plans we want to see. We want to see huge community connect. We want to see huge local industry and job giver connect with the projects. And the whole MGNF concept, I am very clear in my mind. It is not a pure academic exercise resulting in a certificate 2 years to that, 2 years later to that. We are not spending 20 lakhs of taxpayer money. It has to result in changes on the ground. Otherwise, it's a failed project. And I won't mind dropping it in bit. It's a failed project. So I will stop here, but listen to others. And which mediation and all that I decided. And obviously, I will have my comments, sharp comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your in the context for the answer. Can you all hear us properly? Because we are getting some chat saying that the audio is not clear.
Manish, we can hear you loud and clear.
So as Secretary Sir said, probably we need to go local when it comes to identifying the needs of the skill development and entrepreneurship programs development, and that is where we have called the reputed organizations, the foundations, and the expert organizations. But before we get into the roundtable, I'll be, share with you a small presentation to give you the context for those who are those who have not been actually engaged with us. In a couple of them are, but some of them who have no idea about the central program per se, and also what we're trying to do at the local level and what we mean by developing programs with a local flair. As you can see, Sankalp is an acronym, stands for Skill Acquisition and Knowledge Awareness for Livelihood Program. Loan aided project of the World Bank, total program, the loan amount being 200 million, half of which is actually focused at this, the other half is national projects. Now, the program gives us tremendous flexibility to design and try out pilots, which can then be scaled up. So, in a manufacturing kind of context, you can take it as prototyping. So, this is a lot of prototyping of a certain kind is actually allowed, it's actually permissible, it's actually possible in Sankalp kind of program, which can then be taken up by the states and other stakeholders who are interested in this. It's a 6-year program. We are currently in the 5th year of the program. As I said, national components, and since it's an outcome-based program for result instrument, the funding has been done for R, and the result areas are institutional strengthening, quality assurance. When we say institutional strengthening, we are actually talking about strengthening the level machinery, as this Kirti was mentioning. So district skill committees is what first has been brought into existence, and also then we are trying to work and trying to find ways in which we can strengthen them so that they can develop a plan which is rooted in the reality of the district, rather than, as Kirti was mentioning, based upon the inputs only from the training partners who would have a certain capacity and who would have certain vested interest in recommending this type of phrase. This initiative,
Manish, your
Slides are not moving. Manish, your slides are not moving. I mean, it's still on the first slide.
all right, can you read my-
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode.
Yeah, we will share it again. So, as I said, as we speak about 700 plus districts have the district skill committees, about 643 districts have the 643. Yeah, can you see the slides now?
Yes, now it's slide. Yeah, not there.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. Thank you, ma'am. So, specifically for this program, we're talking about some 271 aspirational backward, left-wing extreme affected districts, border and tribal districts, where we think, I mean, aspirational districts like called aspirational for a reason, and so are the others. And we feel that in order to mainstream them with the socio-economic development, skill development also being the horizontal can do a lot. And if the programs are based and developed on the basis of the local reality, that will be great, and that will actually sort of increase the local GDP and provide a lot of options. Therefore, this program has been thought about. Under this program, we also already mentioned it, 2 crore rupees of assistance is given by the Ministry of Skill Development, but the story doesn't end there. We don't really want it to be a typical kind of a program, and we want a lot of private sector participation and private sector players of all kinds. There could be national NGOs, there could be national NGOs, there could be expert organizations of a certain kind. They're all active, and a lot of other programs they're actively participating. So,
Sorry, at this point, I will request IIMs also to use their alumni network and other networks to bring philanthropic funding to these districts. But that is why IIMs were open. That the entire package of IIM, the entire alumni network, that will be available. So please try to get mentors from your alumni to your NCNF fellows. I will be very happy if any of the IIMs tells me that from our alumni network, We have connected these three big industries for scientists or philanthropists or whatever. This district can be. It has become a very, very sort of inward-looking program. You have to really think big, think out of the box. So we must get philanthropic funding globally. Yes, please carry on.
So the project.
Manish, the slides are not changing. It's still on the overview slide.
Special project initiatives.
Manish, put it on slideshow. Put it on slideshow, please.
Is it okay now?
This slideshow पे मैंने डाला एक बार.
Is this okay now? Is this being changed?
Are the slides transitioning now?
Yeah,
Yes.
they are. They
Yes.
are.
Just keep it there. Yes. So all stakeholders in the ecosystem, be it the IIMs and states, we are all appealing to the network, bring in as many players as possible for funding, for the any proprietary technology that they have got or any other assistance that they can offer in order to make the programs really outcome-based programs. If you're chasing some economic outcomes with very clear success indicators, and what we are getting from the district skill committees right now is really not very encouraging to see the kind of proposals, projects they are submitting. So that is where probably we all of us need to pull up our socks and then work with the district skill committee. The role and contribution of industry and foundations is expected, and we expect them to play a huge role. And in boards, you can see we actually want them to play their part as a co-design partners and also co-funding partners. Co-design and co-funding not only for the perspective of bringing in more resources, but also to ensure that commitment to the program. Bring in co-funding. If the private sector foundation or a charity, for the matter, NGO brings in, raises money for this kind of program, there is also an endorsement, independent endorsement for the program design. And that is where we actually are urging, appealing to all the foundations that are here, or also IIMs, as I said, they can spread this word in their alumni network to get involved with the district level ecosystem, as the MGNS are also there. So we have a very important catalyst there at the district level that can facilitate this interaction. Projects, as we say, can actually develop as prototypes, and some thought can actually be given as to how this is scaled up once the project is and all the projects are actually being routed through the district committee. Now, this can actually take many forms and shapes, and we are not sure as to what all models foundation-led kind of projects, some projects that the district committee can actually take. We are open to all those suggestions now, right? As long as the projects are really chasing some clear social outcomes. So, some key stakeholders in this ecosystem, in the context of the current initiative. So, you have district skill committees. We will come to district skill committees in a moment as to what they are and what exactly they are out to do. The Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows, as Kirti pointed out, they were actually start with a lot of fanfare and hope that they will actually go and catalyze some few things have actually been achieved. A lot actually is desired from the Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows, and there have been a lot of learnings in phase 1 when we sent out about 9 fellows to the districts. Now phase 2 has started with almost every other district, 6.3 odd districts now having fellows, and we are trying to understand better as to how we can possibly put them to use and create district skill development plans which are more meaningful. MSD ecosystem organizations, we have NSDC, we have IE, we have BSPUD, which is small an entrepreneurship development institution. We have ITIs that can be made use of this huge network of ITIs, about 50,000 of them across states, out of which 3,500 are government, the rest are private, but that network can also be used. And we need to actually take an integral view when we time like this. This siloed thinking of district skill committee only working with a few officers may not actually work.
Manish, you have to be fast. And others also.
Sure. So, and industry partners, and the industry partners, we have called you, partners, we have called you for this. So this is the district skill committee constitution. The district collector happens to be a chairperson. They are members from various government departments. They have the possibility of co-opting the members from the industry. This is the committee that we expect you to deal with, and they have also been given a very clear mandate to develop PSCs that are meaningful and that are actually good. So this is what we expect the DSCs to do. Development of skill development plan, as he was talking about, mobilization and counseling of the right candidates so that we ensure that the mismatches are reduced. The candidates who actually are looking for a certain kind of training receive that. The organizations that actually want to offer that kind of training to certain trainees, they also find that. So this information discovery is reduced, and this lot of mismatching issues are addressed. Then the industry engagement and entrepreneurship and apprenticeship, that is also promoted. The MIS, local level MIS generation is very important, because all this planning for this convergence attempt that National Skill Development Mission planning to a local level MIS generation is very, very important. Programs actually get done at the district level, and therefore making sure that all these programs work together with each other, with activity duplication minimized, and also the resource sharing happening. I think the program come, and a lot of support functions as a money entity for day-to-day affairs for management HR. This is what PSC was supposed to do. MGNF plays a very key role here. As you can see in this picture, so MGNF was sent out to work with the district skill committee to perform these functions. So one good news is that many of the districts have started committing their skill development plans. And MGNF fellow has actually been implemented. We have also been able to provide them a planning framework. We have also given a training workshop, etc., and subcommittees have been formed. So this is, in this context, this is the setting in which the Mahatma Gandhi District Fellows work. Can you move on? So the possible areas of projects that we talked about, the 2 crore rupees project per district, these are the various areas that we thought about, and this is something that we would like your comments on. And we are talking about new economy, renewable energy, etc. So we're talking about local economies, talking about increasing the local economy, where we're talking about agriculture. Special emphasis has got to be given to agriculture, horticulture, animal husbandry, connect with the MSME, and some projects that can be got in a partnership with the MSME. They have got traditional craft, and what are the possibilities of really harnessing the people who are involved in that craft, and can be possibly and the community-based programs, as we talked about, health, wash, and there are quite a few organizations here which have worked in the area of wash and health and nutrition for quite some time, and agriculture. So we'd like to hear from them as to what can be done and what projects can be. Sankalp has done a lot, and I think a lot of this information is available on the site. We are doing some project in a very large cluster, 3,000 women who are involved in this task craft. And in Punjab, and training of the equipments in order to make sure that they are able to work on the equipments for the waste cleaning, and also the sludging of the sewers, etc. And we have extracted a assurance from the local authorities that they're going to deploy machines in large numbers. Has happened. It's happening in 2 municipalities across the country. And there are some other programs that we can possibly look at, and we'll share all these details. Let me introduce our speakers today for the roundtable, because we are now continuing the discussion. We have Dr. Gayathri Vasudevan with us, who leads this International Labour Organization, has been cited among the top 50 women in the business today, leading businesses, and has been a TED speaker. He has been a great source of thought leadership, etc., in skill development. Has worked with a lot of private sector government and also international funding organizations. And she brings a whole lot of experience and knowledge, program design, also great experience in working with the governments in. Welcome, Gayathri. We have Mr. Pappu, who is the Executive Director of Mission Samriddhi. He was in India working in Silicon Valley, MBA from New York. He works with Mr. Arun Jain very closely, and he has done a lot of work in working with done a lot of work with communities, and his Mission Samriddhi and Samriddhi Yatra are worth require mentioning because they take best practices one part of the and very innovative practices that are happening in one part of the country together. And he has developed a communities development model which actually open up a lot of possibilities of discussions, a lot of possibilities of project design, etc. And that's where we have requested to share his thoughts and his experience. Next, we have Mr. Harish Hande, Women Exercise Awardee. He's founded the SELCO Foundation, and actually somebody who needs touch works in the area of renewable energy and solar. And one particular thing that I remember about him is talking about how do we make develop capacity to consume at local level, where he says when you talk about rural poor and you talk about consumption, you have to think that rural poor might actually find difficult to 10 rupees per day, that kind of a model that he developed and took it to communities, and his work in Manipal and some parts of the other parts of the country is phenomenal. So can learn something. And next is Mr. Pran. Pran has joined today. Mr. Pran had been a national Hyderabad, but Mr. Kalyan Chakravarthy, who is a alumnus from IIT and has championed in a way this joint venture and private partnerships with government. Once huge project in Jharkhand, and in a way has worked out very innovative ways of facilitating skill loans to people and loaning them right. So we like to hear from Mr. Steve. Well, welcome, Mr. Kalyan. Atul Satija aims introduction, works with the Nudge Foundation and Give India. Atul is one of those people who actually know the language in which money for we are here to stand his perspective on what can be done in for designing projects like that and possibly funding projects like that. Welcome, Atul. We also have Mr. Manmohan Singh, who is the head of Aspirational Districts Collaborative at the Piramal Foundation and co-founder of the Education. He has a very tight schedule, thankfully, and works with the IO and his experience. We also have Kirti Mishra, who is from the agriculture sector, associated with this organization called Ecociate. Worked with on various projects all time, the FAO, and I have heard a couple of opportunities to hear Mr. out at one conclave where he talked about agriculture in a manner that I have never heard anybody speak. And he's somebody who actually sort of enthused you about agriculture. Thank you, Mr. That compliment of the introduction and the functions are question. So, here's the first question coming up, and this question is directed at Ram. So the format would be such that there are some questions that we're going to ask you, and we'll request comments from one or two of our panel members today on this. First question is about, since we're talking about co-creating skill and entrepreneurship projects in partnership with the district skill committee. Now, one challenge that we in our interactions with foundations over the last few days identified that while districts might like to design projects in a certain way in skill development and entrepreneurship, foundations might have a very different kind of a priority. So when the district skill committee reaches out to a foundation or how alignment of purposes happen, and what possibilities of what are the possibilities of the project design that exist, since we have a lot of MG and fellows also who are part of this meeting today. So can you please Ram, take us to this entire gamut of the project possibilities that exist, and also a supplementary question is what kind of capacity would you like to see at the level of communities and also the district to not only formulate projects but also carry it out to be stated out.
Good morning, Manish. First of all, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Manish. And Honorable Secretary's remarks really resonated in terms of holistic and sustainable development for Gram Panchayats. My name is Ram, work for Mission Samriddhi with Mr. Arun Jain. GEM portal, as you know, has been designed by Intellect Design Arena. We work in clusters of Gram Panchayats in 7 states, each cluster of Gram Panchayats being 5 to 6 Gram Panchayats, 12 to 15,000 population. For the holistic and sustainable development of these clusters, we have a community development framework that's come up. I must say that this has been the result of a very bottom-up design thinking approach for problem solving. And this is the framework that's actually evolved. And this framework is now being utilized or being adopted in all these clusters where we work. We work in 63 clusters in 7 states, covering around 300 plus Gram Panchayats. Is it okay if I can, in the interest of time, if I can just probably take you through 2 or 3 slides? Will that be okay? Yeah. If you can just let me present my screen, then I can just, it says host disable attendee screen sharing. You can just enable the screen sharing. Then I can quickly take you through some thoughts around
It's what so
Okay. That's a presentation.
Sayan, you also have the presentation with you. I emailed it to you, so you can just open it from your laptop as well.
In the meantime, please continue.
Please continue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
guys put it up.
All right. So I mentioned design thinking because we've actually engaged with Niti Aayog and also currently working with Ministry of Panchayati Raj. When we were working for the Niti Aayog for a youth engagement subcommittee, and we followed a process where we started working with 40 organizations across the country, including the Ministry of Health and several large organizations. Some thought prompts that came up, thought triggers that came up, some ideas which I wanted to share because Honorable Secretary wanted ideas on how we can really catalyze districts. One of the major themes that came up was how do we change the mindset or the self-efficacy, self-belief of the youth, of the entire entrepreneurs or farmer producer companies? How do we inspire at the district level? So a big idea that came up was a district opportunity center. Can you imagine a beautiful space in every district and imagine the possibilities that it can actually manifest, right? To inspire people with real life stories of change based on their aspirations. And this is not just economic, but even social, in the realm of social development, ecological development, right? Or even for institutional development of panchayats. Now, I know that we are talking about economic development more here in terms of, but if you're looking at holistic development, where you're looking at leadership, social, economic, ecological, and institutional development, can we imagine a district opportunity center in every district to inspire people with real life stories of change, become informed on what is possible? So they become informed on what is possible, interact with those people in the ecosystem who can help reach their aspirations. And this can actually be a public-private partnership initiative. So this is the first big ticket item that I wanted to share. And this is there in the slides, but I can share the slide deck later. The
So
second
slide,
idea.
So the
Slide has been put up, Ram.
slide has been put up. Is it visible?
Can you
Yeah,
see?
it's visible. Yeah. Can you just move to can you just move to the next slide? Yeah. So that was a design dialogue process that we did with DT Ayog. But can you just move to the next slide, please? Next slide. Yeah. Those were all the participating organizations, Nehru Yuva Kendra, NYKS, a lot of organizations across ministries, across, etc. And we did a survey of more than 2,000 youth from across the country. Again, rural, urban, tribal youth across the country. This was actually more for youth engagement, but a lot of the focus around it was entrepreneurship, economic empowerment. And that's why I thought I just wanted to bring it up here. Yeah, just move on, please. Some thought triggers. Next one. I was talking about, District Opportunity Center. I just spoke about that. The second big ticket item that came up. Yeah, next slide, please. The next slide. Yeah, can you move to the next? Yeah, a rural economic zone. A rural economic zone. Yeah, no, please go up. Please go up. Yeah, a rural economic zone. Although this can even be up to in a population of 100,000. Maybe even at a slightly, maybe for a couple of blocks, we can look at a rural economic zone where we are having a complete ecosystem of, for promoting agro input services, artisanal input services, processing of agro produce, provide them the entire infrastructure, provide the entire ecosystem required to, catalyze this. It could be banking linkages, it could be service linkages, it could be marketing linkages at a rural economic zone. And how we do this is design it with the help of local village level entrepreneurs, bring in, and this can be very nicely can be done as a public-private partnership initiative. And we have a whole thought process around this. Later on, we could actually take you through it on how to create this rural economic zone. That was the second big ticket idea. The third idea, which I wanted to share with you. Can you move on to the next slide is? And I'm trying to, next slide, please. Yeah. Because we want to work at the district where Honorable Secretary mentioned right at the start, it is really where you're trying to bring in the best of the Samaj, the Sarkar, and the Bazaar. You have to work with the scale of the government. You have to understand, we have to understand the sensitivity of the community and the civil society organizations. We have to work with academia, and we can also bring in the agility of the Bazaar, of the private sector. Now, if you really notice, I kept the Zilla at the intersection of the three, where we bring in the scale, the sensitivity and agility of the corporate sector. Then you actually can create the brand of the district. In the US and many places, you have Sunshine State, Florida, and whatnot, right? Why can't we promote the district as a brand? And I'm proposing that we can look at a design thinking approach by bringing in all the stakeholders in the district, not just civil society organizations. Bring in the Sarkar, bring in the Samaj, bring in the corporate or the Bazaar organizations. And we can actually bottom up think the approach of what are the 1,000-gram priorities of the local entrepreneurs? What are the constraints? How do we provide working capital financing? How do we provide the market linkages? How do we basically understand the real issues on the ground and agree on an approach which is going to align all the stakeholders? And for this, you can actually have a district advisory board, okay, which will include rural entrepreneurs, which will include representatives of farmer producer companies, and so on. So this is a thing that we wanted to talk about. And we've been doing these kind of workshops we have done with Niti Ayog. And I would probably like to request the Honorable Secretary at a later point in time to give us some, where we can have a dialogue around how we can facilitate this whole design thinking approach for creating an alignment and a common purpose in spurring of the district and branding the district like a Varda, Right now, one of our partners, Wheels Global Foundation, we are working on amazing Aravalli in Gujarat. I just leave you with these thoughts. You talked about our community development framework. We do have a community development framework for our Gram Panchayats, where we focusing on personal, social, economic, ecological, and institutional development of our Gram Panchayats. And we have wired a lot of partners who are solving different problems under this framework. And this is being taken into our clusters. I'll just stop with that. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you very much. This rural economic zone idea actually appears very fascinating. This expression of Samaj Sarkar Bazar is indeed very, very interesting, and we'll really like to engage with you on some of these thoughts later. Thank you very much. Gayathri, can you take time for 2-3 minutes and you also give us your perspective on what project possibilities exist in the district, having worked with the state and district level administration for so long. Can you possibly give us some perspective on that?
Yeah, I don't have any path-breaking ideas, but I will present you what I think are more from what did not work, what my experiences have been and what I feel could be done. See, I think the huge opportunity is when we think of skilling, we always think of skilling, I think Secretary Sir made the statement, is for jobs. That means jobs are essentially elsewhere. But if we look at the village, several of them actually lack basic amenities. And I'm here going to restrict myself to the 2 or 3 which I am aware of, and therefore stick to that. One is electricity. The second is water. Third is health. And education, I would like to say, but I'll come back to that. So the way I think if this is a pilot and it has to work, we have public institutions from a village to a tehsil level, which means you will have schools, sub-centers, community health centers, you will have public institutions. Let me, as I said, I just restricted it to this. There are homes and public institutions. Now, if we were to look at it, what is the outcome that we have to see in a district if we have to see growth in or even development in the district is these have to function. So as as MGNF fellows, if they can be given the, I want to use the word, the freedom to actually say, okay, I pick these institutions for which I'm going to create a workforce which is going to get paid. The payment is going to be very, very important, right? Like suppose you have an electrician, plumber, and the electrical, we all know has to be a mix of solar and normal. And I guess Harish and, we've been speaking for a long time saying that it needs to be integrated. Skill and entrepreneurship is not outside an outcome. So if you look at health, even the ASHA workers and ASHA helpers require retraining. They require to come into the current modality. For example, do they have the skill set to actually facilitate telemedicine to happen? Or the ANM for that matter, the connect between the ASHA, every sub-center has almost 5 ASHA workers. So how do you connect to the doctor and this? So that connection is what I see as skilling. And the question really is who pays for all of this post-skilling, and you create platforms. Today, technology is possible, skilling is possible. But our ability to actually marry it with the outcome, saying that the outcome is there must be at least a marginal increase in income which comes in. And this income could come from state, it could come from community, it could come from a variety. And I'm going to now be very specific for a minute. Like for example, suppose we say, as I said, water. The Jal Jeevan Mission is ensuring that pipes are going to every village, to every household. That means the outside wall of the house is going to have a tap, which is a huge opportunity for who's going to actually participate in maintenance of this entire pipe work. So you do need a few plumbers, you need a few electricians. Like this, we need to be specific in our outcome. That means the maintenance and service, that is what we call establishment charges, are a good way of earning. Today that has become absent. So we find whether it is garbage, whether it is water. I think these are the projects where I was thinking when Manish, we spoke yesterday also, what is the any foundation is going to look at outcome, and we as individuals also should look at outcome. It is not about skilling and leaving. So whether it is skilling and entrepreneurship, whether we are able to do. And, in this panel, I do have the luxury of having two people who have actually facilitated it. And Atul, whether you know it or not, I think during the pandemic time, Give India was very, very functional to look at, being open to saying where the district required, there you please do skilling and outcome. Similarly, Harish has been, I think, the proponent of actually looking at outcome and not skilling in isolation. I think our ability to say foundations will look at, whether I'm saying foundations or corporates is irrelevant, but whoever it is has to look at outcome, and skilling is a input into outcome. And because of skilling and entrepreneurship, one should actually get an income. And that income, because it is poor areas, is not going to come from community alone. So we have to figure out over a period of time who pays for the services of somebody who's getting skilled there. Otherwise, migration is a reality. So I think that's where, and I would say that the public infrastructure upkeep is a huge opportunity for at least 30% of the income to be guaranteed, but with outcome monitoring. And that's something that one can actually work towards in such a program.
Thank you. Thank you, Gayathri. Throwing light on the basic amenities like electricity, water, and health, and what could be the different kind of skilling initiatives and entrepreneurship programs actually open with this these in mind. And
Please just an observation at this point. Apart from this, it focus on increasing GDP of the village, basically the agriculture productivity, taking that inputs, basically everything right from pesticides, pesticides, some training or some linkages, for example, if pineapple is grown in the district, and the whole chain of pineapple production, packaging, on processing, local processing, only whether animal husbandry is there, whether fishing. So agri and allied activity. Those ministries focus on rural villages, rural areas will definitely be much more. That's one aspect which has been sort of very much neglected. Both IDA training as well as PMTDY training. Unfortunately, even in PDUJY training, rural development, with huge funding as well. In basic amenities, yes, banking is one things possible. Again, the point on Asha ALM also has intent to better effect, but also let's focus on agri-allied activity.
So just one comment before we proceed. Sir, even for agri, like for example, for a village to go to the market is often a 20 to 30 kilometer trek, which means they often waste the time on that. And that is where I was coming from, is we need to ease that. Otherwise, that is a productivity day gone. So we need to bring the systems which we have in urban centers to rural centers. And that is what, I mean, if I'm just sort of going from the previous speaker, if we are able to create those hubs, and I'm not saying every village has to do it, you have to have a cluster in which you have to focus on whether it is today logistics is booming because it is reaching the homes. And that is where I'm saying that integrated skill to entrepreneurship to outcome has to be our goal.
RDZs and local, point the secretary is making is can also look at move away from this conventional amenities to agriculture. And as a matter of fact, we also started looking at a lot of Gram Panchayat development plans. So there is a provision for keeping animal husbandry and agriculture related subjects in there. But Ram and those who actually work with the GP very closely, there is very little mention of what can possibly be done on the rural agriculture produce, animal husbandry, etc., etc. So possibly some focus is required there. And with all this infrastructure that both Gayathri and Ram talked about, I think able to make villages a much viable.
Manish, if time permits, can I share a rural agriculture example that's currently working in our clusters at some point in time?
Yeah, please go ahead.
There is a very nice model called Nagpur Naturals. This was started by Manmohan Singh, Ministry of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture in Maharashtra. What he did was very simple. He collectivized farmers in and around around Nagpur, ZBNF, master trained them in zero budget natural farming. Now they moved to multi-cropping, and these are small marginal farmers, 1 acre, 2 acre plot sizes. Now they were taught natural farming. And what he did was, one of them became an entrepreneur, collectivized all the produce and started selling direct from farm to communities in Nagpur through retail outlets initially. And then afterwards, they started doing it even door delivery home to home. Now, the beauty in this model is ZBNF, multi-cropping, fix the price of the vegetables at 60 rupees a kilo throughout the year, make the arithmetic simple. And what has resulted is a farmer earning around 3,000 or 4,000 rupees per acre per month is now earning anything around 12,000 to 15,000 rupees. And of course, they've also started doing processing and so on. But this is, and because of Nagpur Naturals, you have models like Amravati Naturals, Karjat Naturals, you have Vashim Naturals, Vardha Naturals that has sprouted up, right? A very simple model, collectivizing the farmers, completely reduce chemical, natural farming, okay, and train them. And one of them who has got a flair for, will become a driver, transport. Now you remove all the cost of, logistics or all that. Now a farmer is making at a farm gate price, each farmer is making 30 rupees per kilo per vegetable. And that's how the incomes are going up to 15 to 18,000 rupees per acre per farmer. Now that is a rural agriculture, which is working. This is one example. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ram, for sharing this. We'll come back to specific themes like energy and agriculture a little later in this discussion. But thanks for inputs on the Nagpur Naturals. Thanks, I'll request now to Mr. Atul Satija at this point. Funding is going to be a critical piece because we are urging the district skill committees and also the Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows to bring in projects which are co-funded by foundations, for that matter, the corporate charities, etc. Now, who better than you to talk about how to raise funds for purposes like these and what can possibly MGNFs learn from your experience and also the district committees on how to conceptualize projects in a manner in which the corporate foundations would be interested in taking up, or any NGO would be actually find it easy to raise funds. What do you do?
Thanks, Manish, and glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. It's good to be speaking with really awesome people, also sharing their thoughts. I want to start by just sort of acknowledging that the entire effort to take skilling not just from top down, but also build a bottoms up infrastructure is very, very welcome, very, very needed. And the choice of taking the needy districts at the center is also very apt. So kudos to the entire Sankalp team for the effort here. I also feel that, while DSCs are the local maximum models, right? At district level, you can also have a local maximum model. It's not maximizing the overall labor market outcomes linked to the demand side. But knowing the migration patterns in the country, how most of the migration is interstate, if not inter-district, I think it still has a lot of potential. And this balance swinging from top-down macro skilling to local bottoms-up skilling is very much needed. Coming to the funding question, Manish, that you mentioned, I feel that when you look at funding for skilling coming from outside government channels as a co-funding source, private capital, especially philanthropic private capital, is very difficult to be mobilized at a district level. Outside of districts, when states have tried as well, or even center has tried, outside of disaster money through PM cares or CM cares at government level to mobilize from outside, Very few models of success are there for private capital at a local level, unless you unlock the DMF kind of funds, which are at some states very healthy pool of money, but in most cases not as much so. I think the model I feel that will need to be thought through is how can you create a collective giving approach with a strong, in some sense, design, which is top-down design, but still allows capital mobility at a center level, state level, and in very few cases, probably even at a district level. And this collective fund, there are examples in the recent past coming out of COVID. Our own work at Give India through India COVID Response Fund, we mobilized around 1,000 crores, with 100% of that being non-government philanthropic capital. And we were able to partner with close to about some 500 plus nonprofits across the country and deploy that money to immediately provide relief. Now, while we were able to mobilize because of COVID, all of that is mandated money because of CSR. And some from philanthropists and HNI. So that pool of capital exists year after year and it is growing. So I think while the design has to be implemented bottoms up in DSCs, the capital leverage has to be designed top down with still state and district level mobility there. Happy to sort of chat in more detail on how something like this could be conceptualized. I think that's one thing. In terms of generally sort of models for co-funding beyond this, I think there is also a flexibility access that Gayathri brought up, which is, there are proven models that work, mostly demand models, right? You need, for example, culinary art and cooks from Udupi, or you need plumbers from parts of Odisha, or you need sort of leather factory workers from Agra or carpets of Mirzapur or whatever, right? In demand models, local demand supply, it kind of works out because there is industry, there is labor. They historically have seen the skilling, and you can make it work really well. But when you look at flexibility of capital, CSR is not a flexible pool of capital. Foundations are slightly higher degree of flexibility, and HNIs are much higher degree of flexibility. But the size of the market also comes down from CSR being a large pool of money, a couple of $1 billion a year, to foundations that may be a few $100 million, to HNIs that's a very small pool of money on a relative scale. And hence what they are fit for is different. The CSR capital is fit for proven solutions that have short-term outcomes linked to, for example, placement of students. When you look at a higher risk models where you need some flexibility to try, to iterate, to experiment, to fail, you need foundation capital to come in. CSR capital is not failure forgiving, if I were to use that term. HNI money is actually even more forgiving, right? It can be gone into capital, it can be going into soft assets and long-term ecosystem build out and scaling. So I think the axis of what are we looking money for also has to be factored into the design of this co-funding structure as we look at it top down. I think within the government capital for skill development, a couple of thoughts that come to mind is, even from a government lens, we have to see how do we make sure that for the demand-driven skilling, we are very outcome-focused, which is absolutely necessary to say that, okay, if you're skilling somebody next 1,000 rupees, what is the placement rate, what is the retention rate, and downstream life outcome improvements with that as well. But I do feel there is a strong case for generic capability building model as well. When somebody is a 10-year-old kid, we have a lot of patience to invest in capability building for future. Even in engineering colleges, there is a lot of patience for investing in the student for future jobs because markets exist. But even in higher education, the forgiveness is there, right? Like you invest in capability of people in higher education and they can go into 20 different businesses. They can do a startup, they can take a job, they can go for PhD, and there is financing available for that. I think in skilling somewhere this entire outcome linked model, which is absolutely necessary for demand skill ecosystems, we are missing the generic capability required for underprivileged youth that is dropping out without having to worry about short-term outcomes. We do need obviously establishment of long-term better outcomes with capability models today, but that's also needed, especially in rural areas with first generation learners where we need to have a little bit more patient capital to invest in capability like we're investing in education, which needs a different design even from a Sankalp standpoint as we go rural into this. The third is a very interesting intersectional opportunity that I want to highlight around selfpreneurs. For us to have a local success at a district level, you need local jobs. But there are only so many local jobs that you can do there. And Gayathri pointed to many of them that exist. But at meaningful large scale, the scale at the country level or at the districts we're working level, livelihood opportunities outside of formal jobs or semi-formal jobs need to be created and supported. And there are good models that exist in livelihood opportunities in rural economies in various agri and RD ecosystems. One example that I want to highlight is the Bihar's SJY model, which is built on the graduation approach of BRAC. Fundamentally, it is obviously, there is a part of it which is a cash grant, but a large part of it is capacity building of women at the center, where you take a 2-year capacity building at low cost per person. And at the end, we are able to graduate families out of extreme poverty in 2 years. Now, it's a slow program, but success rate is very high. Now, how do you look at these livelihood opportunities linked to the local ecosystem, social capital, physical capital, local environments to get women to benefit from such opportunities? And how can the skilling ecosystem come and carry some of the burden of capacity building required for rural women to participate in this? It's very well documented. A lot of RCTs have been done. Evidence is very strong, and it will definitely benefit from the push from here. And the fourth one, which is very obvious, is that as rural economies go away from agri, dairy, self-entrepreneurship, there are also micro-entrepreneurship opportunities that are coming up there. Especially in today's technology-led world, where the logistics cost, even though it is still a challenge in extreme areas, but still large number of districts have logistics now reasonably solved. Along with the marketing costs coming from technology access that is bottling to near zero now, with this whole influencer ecosystem and time that rural youth and economy is spending on technology. What is happening in urban areas in D2C brands, direct to consumer brands, there is a case to be had to have D2C ecosystem created in rural economies through technology, through micro influencers in these economies, because you see these rural micro influencers having hundreds of thousands of followers, which means they have social capital to build economic capital on top of it. But right now they don't have any tools. And right now logistics sorted means that you can create a large entrepreneurship ecosystem in D2C in rural areas on the back of technology pervasiveness. I think these are sort of the big themes I wanted to highlight. One other thought that comes to mind is, while there is a need for a lot of prototypes and experiments on the ground, they may not be necessarily prime for a multi-stakeholder approach. So you have to figure out how do we balance the needs on the ground from the burden of multi-stakeholder designs, and how do you marry the two when you want to do that? So maybe a pool of capital required, call it a mystic capital or risk capital required to experiment models on the ground that work, which can then be propagated across the country. And how do you balance that from the burden of what multi-stakeholder ecosystem brings with its benefits of every voice being on the table as well.
Thank you, Atul. I think everybody has a lot of follow-up questions. In the interest of time, we like to. So we will come back to you because we are going to open this floor for discussions in a bit, and I'm sure you're going to get a bombardment of questions immediately after this, because there's one task that we are faced with, bringing in private money for the kind of project. Thank you very much for participating. And now moving on to, I'm slightly jumping the order. Before I go to for the EBS. Any? Yeah. Can I call Mr. Harish Hande now, because we're talking about specific themes as to what can possibly be done. One is getting a lot of demand for skilling and entrepreneurship in the area of energy, especially renewable energy. And your work in Manipal, for the matter of the other parts of the country, has been phenomenal in bringing the communities together and then creating this capacity to consume, also bringing in a lot of models which will actually work at the scale, at the level, community level, at the sub-district level. So, one is, what is the size of opportunity that renewable energy space in all skilling and entrepreneurship, and how can possibly the district skill committees and Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows, your understanding, work with the actors there to put together projects that are meaningful, where the outcomes are tangible. Just throw some light.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity. And I was thinking that Secretary Saab started with some of the stuff that I was about to say. The issue, first I'll start with the issue and a potential solution, because I would say one is, see, for us, renewable energy is just a, what you know, is a catalyst. What should it actually do? And when, see, if we look at 4 agendas like agriculture, animal husbandry, resilient micro business, and health, all in those 4 categories. And if I look at the value chain approach for a simple thing like, let's look at what you call it as a dairy value chain. What happens in a dairy value chain is right from hydroponics to milking machine, to small milk chillers, to khoya making. In every intervention, energy is needed, yes, but a lot of innovation needs to happen, and that has not happened. So my question is, if we are able to create at least 150 innovation centers in the rural areas, which looked at village GDP. Today, what happens is, why should we put money into the IITs of STEP? Let the private capital put that money. Why should the taxpayers' money should actually be given to the IITs to look at the innovation centers? We should create for the non-English speakers of our country, because पैसा किसको जाता है? जो अंग्रेजी बात करता है उसको चला जाता है, जो PowerPoint present करता है उसको चला जाता है पैसा. I think we should get away from that concept and say, boss, how do we create? And Secretary Saab, आप जब बोले कि alumni mentor, मैं भी IIT का alumni हूँ, the question what happened during the COVID scenario, one of the biggest failures was to get mentors from IIT and IIMs. Because घर पे बैठे थे, but they have absolutely zero idea of rural economy and rural infrastructure and ecosystem. I think we should parallelly create another set of mentors. We have multiple of 100 champion. Let's look at champion farmers. Let's look at champion blacksmith blowers. Let's look at champion, what you call it as silk weavers. Make them as the champions and create these innovation centers where these guys are doing, and it's very doable. I think we should get away from this whole jargon of jobs and look at innovation, livelihoods in the sectors of agriculture, animal husbandry, resilient micro business, health in the local area, how to actually repair a small in the public PHCs. That's where the what you call the future opportunities are. As a country, I'm telling you, Manish, I'm glad we had a spoke. We are losing out this opportunity, not only for our own villages, but to showcase India as an R&D center for Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Because our next set of innovations is not going to happen in app that will actually help rural Tanzania or Somalia or rural Kashmir or Kanyakumari. The next set in Tanzania is high quality rice mills, high quality blacksmith blower, efficient barber shops. That's what a country like ours will be able to create a platform, not only jobs and livelihoods for a country like ours, where SDG 7 becomes an intervention for SDG 8, SDG 3, SDG 5, that is gender, and finally automatically leading to SDG 13. I think opportunities are enough. We should get away from the normal, the IIM, IIT route. Frankly speaking, we should look at how there are 10,000 champion farmers in Karnataka itself. How do we scale the processes that these 10,000 champion farmers, they should be the mentors. A good pineapple farmer from Karnataka can be a mentor for a pineapple farmer in Meghalaya. From Meghalaya, it could be a good mentor for elsewhere else. Why should we look at IIT and IIMs? Because they have not struggled on the field at all, in the villages at all. So let's take the experience that exists in a country like ours. There are rural bankers, rural farmers, rural agriculturists, select 150 ITIs and convert them into centers of failures and excellence. where you put in where we foundations can put in failure capital, the success can then be replicated by government, and these are the 5 steps that can actually upscale the truly rural economy. And let us not rely on urban infrastructure at all. The IITs and IIMs are completely urbanized in their thinking process. They cannot. The incentives are in a different place completely. Incentives है नहीं कि मेरे को rural economy बढ़ाना है, और romanticism को हमको निकालना पड़ेगा मनीष. The question is, how do we look at Hindi speaker farmer, a Kannada speaker farmer, a Garo speaking farmer to be the mentor for future farmers? एक IIM और IIT का बंदा जो सॉफ्टवेयर में काम किया या फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन में बॉम्बे में, how will I ever relate to him in rural Manipur यार? वो नहीं होने वाला है. I think we have to we should glorify the rural farmers and make them the champions. Secretary साहब अब आए थे, मैं वही बोल रहा था कि I myself coming from IIT, मेरे को IIT and IIM के alumni के ऊपर भरोसा नहीं है, because a COVID pandemic में they were, none of them were good mentors, because they did not know rural economy. In a country like ours, where we are 20,000-30,000 champion farmers in Karnataka, 10,000 champion farmers in Manipur, they will be the mentors. Let us create centers of innovation and failure in around 150 places. Remove the capital from IITs. They can be funded by private capital, by the big industries. That innovation capital should go to these 100, and these innovation capital will work on 4 areas. Agriculture, in agriculture, 10-15 value chains. Animal husbandry, 10-15 value chains. And value chain की बात मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? For example, a dairy value chain is hydroponics, milking machine, water pumping, to milk chillers, to khoya making. Who work of the complete value chain in each of these value chain, and
we are losing you.
is a critical component. Entrepreneurs, something in rice value chains. And sorry,
Harish, maybe you can put your video off. Maybe we are seeing frozen images of you.
okay. So मैं बोल रहा था कि can we have this in the 4 areas: agriculture, animal husbandry, resilient micro business, and health? Create centers of innovation where foundations like us can put in failure capital into this, and the successful financial models, technical models, and delivery models can be partly replicated by the government and mostly by the rural banks. We need to take the advantage of the RRBs in our country for creating risk capital for rural entrepreneurs to get finance and innovators. And that's how the village GDP, we should forget the jobs. And मेरे को urban के ऊपर भरोसा नहीं. There are no mentors in urban areas. There are enough mentors in rural areas to create that. So that's where I lay my position is about. We need to because Secretary Sahab, aap sunegi, we should get away from this, because the money goes to English speaking entrepreneurs who give PowerPoint and Word. How do we look at money going into Garo speaking entrepreneurs, Hindi speaking entrepreneurs, Gujarati speaking entrepreneurs in a manner, and mentors are also Gujarati speaking, Hindi speaking, and Garo speaking, and we as a country have that. Let's create 150 centers of vernacular excellence leading to this, and that can be done. And that's what we are trying to do in the 2 aspirational districts of Raichur and Yadgir, and couple of in Manipur and 1 in Meghalaya, sir.
हरीश जी, आप एक बात तो सही कह रहे हो कि मैं वो यहाँ भी एक्सपीरियंस करता हूँ कि हमारी जो स्कीम्स हैं, स्कीम गाइडलाइंस हैं, वो सब डिजाइन इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग कंसल्टेंट्स ने जाना करती है, जिन्होंने कभी काम देखे ही नहीं थे। तो मैं भी जब अपनी टीमों से पूछता हूँ कि यार मुझे अंग्रेजी नहीं आती, मुझे प्लेन भाषा में समझाओ, वो समझ ही नहीं आता मतलब। तो from it has basically there is a fundamental flaw from design itself.
Yes.
कि हमने रियल लोगों को इन्वॉल्व ही नहीं किया। बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप, एंड एब्सोल्युटली चैंपियन फार्मर्स और ये सब इनको इन्वॉल्व करना चाहिए। हम भी, मैं कल मंत्री जी से भी वही बात हो रही थी कि हम RPL भी कर रहे हैं, रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ प्रायर लर्निंग, चाहे वो गांव का बार्बर हो, चाहे कोई भी हो, फार्मर हो या कोई भी हो, तो हम फिर वही असेसमेंट एजेंसी आ जाती है और क्वेश्चन बैंक आ जाता है अंग्रेजी का, और पूरी होलिस्टिक थिंकिंग आ जाती है कि उसको तो 50 चीज आनी चाहिए, तो उसमें जॉब एक ही करना है। कई फंडामेंटल फ्लॉज हैं, तो इसीलिए हम स्पेशल प्रोजेक्ट के रूप में जाना चाह रहे हैं, so that हम पूरा फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एक मिल जाए, किसके थ्रू करना है, कैसे करना है, क्या कितनी कॉस्टिंग हम करेंगे, एनजीओ क्या करेगा, टॉपिक क्या ला सकते हैं, एनएसपीएफ नॉन एनएसपीएफ सब चीज से थोड़ा मुक्ति मिल जाए, तो इट अलाउज अस टू थिंक आउटसाइड द बॉक्स। इसलिए हम तो प्रोजेक्ट्स भी चाह रहे हैं कि फील्ड से आए, जैसा आपने भी बोला, तुमने भी बोला, गायत्री भी बोल रहे, राम भी बोल रहे थे, तो बिल्कुल ग्राउंड्स अप आना चाहिए विदाउट फीलिंग कंस्ट्रेन्ड बाय एक्जिस्टिंग स्कीम गाइडलाइंस।
Yes.
हम देख रहे हैं कि अभी जो प्रोजेक्ट्स आ रहे हैं वो एग्जिस्टिंग स्कीम गाइडलाइन सामने रख के वही बना के देते हैं, हमें उसी से तो मुक्ति पानी है।
Right. And हो सकता सर।
ठीक है, तो चलो अभी क्वेश्चंस भी आएंगे लोगों के।
Right.
Thank you, Harish Hande, for a very skilled. We are requesting engineers to post their questions in the chat box, and we'll take it up once the are over. We'll also open it for a brief discussion interaction of the speakers with the program directors of IIM. Going to be with engineers. Yes, moving on, I will request now to Kirti Mishra to present his thoughts on what are the possibilities in agriculture, horticulture, etc., and what are the new technologies in the area of agriculture and how that can possibly be leveraged or thought of in order to put together the project. So over to you, Mr. Mishra.
Thank you, Manish ji. I'll straight come to the issue at hand, that's agriculture. I've been working in that space for long. After listening all of you, I think I'll simplify my points. So in the agriculture, we have now at least seeing a lot of growth in certain pockets like millets. Staple will always be there, spices. So we need to identify which are the ones which are really seeing the growth. Similarly, in animal husbandry, we are seeing growth in the fishery sector. We've been working on fishery in Assam and Odisha. We're finding, if you look at the value chains, as Harish said, we are finding if people are producing and there are traders in between, a lot of services related to seed, feed, spawn, to nursery, to many things that would be required. So fishery as a sector is growing, but at a value chain level, at the level of service provision, a lot of things are missing. Similarly, in horticulture, we are seeing a good amount of growth in fruits as well as dry fruits and certain special products like cocoa and other things. If I put everything into perspective, there are certain things happening at the market level which is driving the demand. And of course, there is an enabling environment coming through. What I mean, at a larger level, when we look at these things, agriculture to nutrition to safe food is becoming the order of the day post-COVID. We need to leverage that, and that's where big corporates and big companies, we are working on sustainable sourcing. We are finding a lot of good companies are now moving to the space of ensuring MRL compliant products. So what does it mean in terms of their requirement? They need good practices to come, and that's where they're seeing the demand in future, and they're working on that. So one is the market side, where we are seeing, apart from this, agtech emerging. We need to train our youth in the rural to look at agtech. For example, we are working on a remote sensing based data system to ensure how much carbon been stored in the soil. And that's a simple technology. Of course, there is a startup which is working on that, but a lot of training, a lot of skills needed at the ground level to ensure that this is properly delivered at the ground level. Direct sourcing, online trading, inputs on the bio sector. We just did a calculation recently for 10,000 acres of land for bio inputs. We need 10 crores worth bio inputs. You divide it by 50 lakh per year, you will so many bio input producers we need on the ground. Similarly, extension services. Look at NRLM today. We are talking about government. NRLM has more than 2 lakh or 3 lakh CRPs, community resource persons. We just finished one interaction with them. We found many of these community resource persons have become entrepreneurs on their own rights. But since they have moved few steps ahead, can at the district level through DSC to the fellows, can we look at them and see what we can do? At the enabling level, which is missing in this dialogue, I think government at the end of the day particularly in agriculture sector. If you take ODFP, we take PMFME, FAO, infrastructure fund, 1 lakh fund is available for this. To my simple analysis on ground says 60% of the commodities which we are producing can be processed, value added at the ground level, at the farm gate level. Why it would come from a small village in Odisha to Bombay and then come back to us? So 60% of the value addition which we are missing at the farm gate level would require a bit of skill, infrastructure, all that. That's something we are missing, and infrastructure as a fund has come. AgTech support has come. Organic story we are all talking. We are also seeing in Odisha, particularly disaster management committee, they have a good amount of funds. They are struggling to really utilize that money for the purpose. Coming back to this, what I see, sir, like if you look at MSME's growth, everything is around cluster, particularly when you look at scale. Here, I think while district is important for us, we need to take cluster, commodity cluster, these vegetables with fruits as our main hub to experiment or to create jobs or entrepreneurship. So cluster identification at the district level, every district, whether it is poor, backward or aspirational, will have definite products. And when we look at these clusters, then we take the value chain, certain amount of farmers. But when you take it up to the market level, there's so many entrepreneurial opportunity coming through. And that's where technology, that's where logistics, that's where marketing, all these opportunities need to be tapped through a skilling route and converted into a plan and then delivered. And that's what Harish and others talked about, the value chain. At a cluster level, if we have clarity on that, then skilling and building up their capacity would be very easy. And that's where, if cluster is available, then private sector would have a role to play, because they would not come unless there is a scale. So from a PPP point of view in our planning, if we want them to be co-founder or co-creator, we need to look at these opportunities. And for example, very quickly, we are working in Ladakh, and in Afghanistan, after this war, the apricot market has come down as far as importing from Afghanistan. We have a cluster in Ladakh where we have 17,000 metric ton of apricot produced. 100 tons of apricot is not processed and sold to Indian market. We found that opportunity. We brought it to Noida market. We found in 10 days time could sell 100 kilos of apricot upfront. But there are a lot of things missing at the ground level in terms of processing, value addition and all that. If we take such stories everywhere, you will find, like Hari's dairy story, every commodity will have this kind of story. As I said, 60-70% of the farm gate value addition is a possibility with ecosystem, with private sector, with brand marketing come into the picture. Now, since we are talking to fellows here, I think key commodities selection, cluster identification, gaps in the value chain, big buyers, who are the corporates or otherwise, what are the tech providers in that area, be startups or otherwise, and the schemes that fit in, like PMFME or FPO or startup schemes. What are the schemes that fitting in? Because we cannot reinvent at this point. We are talking about a government machinery here. We are not talking about small CSOs or NGOs. In that context, I think we need to look at how we can create and collaborate instead of reinventing. In the, and then look at a local skill development plan in a holistic. I can give lot of because we don't have much time. I think my major takeaway, if I can put forward, at the district level, can we find 8 to 10 clusters and plan everything around that? Let's not forget about, let's not do much of the job orientation approach in agriculture. We should look at entrepreneurship kind of an approach. We need to look at NRLMs. We need to look at other organizations who are already in the space. Your top-up can actually value add and bring the private sector to the ground. That's where I stop. Thank you very much, Manishji, for this opportunity. I really appreciate having me here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Izzy, and your emphasis on focusing on entrepreneurship as far as the agriculture thing is concerned, and also looking at the value chain etc. as some of the possibilities around which the projects. Thank you. We are getting chats from the Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows on the questions that they're asking, and we pick it up. Last but by no means the least, we will go to Chakravarthy now. And Kalyan, because we are actually looking for projects which where we are looking for part of the fees at least to be paid by the candidate. Now, when we talk about part fees being paid by the candidate, we now generally a question of affordability comes up. But we then we start talking about entry level courses, the courses are not very aspirational. The moment we want to go up and do high end courses, you have this who pays for the pay, and in a way you have mastered this business as to who will pay and how all these skill loans have got to be procured, either for the high end courses for the domestic market, also for the international market. Can you please throw some light around it in case district skill committees are putting together projects? What they can think of if they have to really build in candidate pay model as part of the project?
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. I think, Sayani, I'll present. I have an updated one. Just let me present. I'll be the host if it's okay. So, Dr. Manish, really appreciate this opportunity, and of course, Aggarwal Saab has been fantastic in his opening remarks. Sir, बहुत धन्यवाद आपका हमारे को मौका दिया है PANIIT Alumni Foundation की तरफ से, and congratulations to both the ministry, the Sankalp team, and of course the whole bunch of Mahatma Gandhi National Fellows. It's not easy to go to the district level and actually stay put for a couple of years and really work on all these projects. बहुत shubhkamnaएं. I know how difficult it is. I've personally dealt with some of these things. So I have a couple of slides in the interest of time. Sayani, I don't know, I'm still not able to present. So मेरा ये request होगा कि just from I've been seeing the chat on the Okay. Sayani, is the presentation happening? No.
So you are the host now. You can start.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rajesh Saab, and really appreciate the opportunity. And सब लोग वहाँ पे मैंने chat देख रहा था. I think one में एक और at least हमारे सुझाव हमारे तरफ से देख सकते हैं. Hello.
Yeah, we can see the presentation.
Yeah. So what we are saying is that we are basically figuring this out. One of the requests I have for the MGNF folks is that please think of yourself as an entrepreneur, right? The district administration has a lot of priorities. It is not easy for them to kind of just look at this. And the answer lies in actually making this project worthwhile for the district administration. So one of the points, like the Secretary Saab rightly pointed out, is that the aspirational districts actually have a lot of challenges in terms of placement avenues, because usme problem ye hai ki they're not able to you're not able to kind of find opportunities which are local, and that is I think like PM Saab rightly said, and Rajesh Saab yahi bol rahe the ki local opportunity or local GDP बढ़ाना है. That itself is actually an entrepreneurial activity. So मेरा request ये होगा कि आप ये समझे, and Atul was saying the same thing कि India में actually if you look at, there are set migration patterns. There are high GDP states, there are low GDP states. Fundamentally, where you're focusing all your aspirational districts, border areas, LWE, and we work in Jharkhand very extensively, which has highest number of aspirational districts. हम समझते हैं कि ऐसा माहौल बना है कि जहाँ local opportunity सीमित है और उसमें मुश्किल बहुत होती है, बट उसमें आपका जो तजुर्बा है और आपका जो काबिलियत है और IIM IIT का नेटवर्क जो बोल रहे थे, वो जैसे हरीश साहब बोल रहे हैं, आपको कस्टमाइज करना पड़ेगा लोकल लेवल पे. So one of the things, our expectation on the entire fee based or a market based model ये था कि while there is lot of potential of high quality human resources in the target districts that we have taken, backward districts, LWE ho, aspirational ho, but local job opportunities बहुत limited है, सीमित है. तो migration तो naturally होता है, but the point is that आप उसको रोकने के लिए पहली बात है आपका trade selection जो होता है वो smartly करें ताकि local opportunity linkages हो. And honestly हम collectors बहुत सारे collectors के साथ काम किए हैं, करते रहते हैं. तो इसमें इंपॉर्टेंट ये बात होगा कि आप जब MGNF वहां पे जाके प्रोजेक्ट फंडिंग के तौर पे जाएंगे वो अलग बात होती है, लेकिन एक प्लेसमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी, फर्म प्लेसमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी के साथ जाएंगे कि साहब ये लोग चाहते हैं कि इतने जॉब्स मिले और यहाँ पे ट्रेनिंग हो और यहीं पे बच्चों को लोकल जॉब मिले, तो आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज एनी डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन व्हिच विल नॉट सपोर्ट this initiative. So to be honest, I also believe that we have to earn the respect and earn the respect and actually the trust of the local administration by actually bringing market. And the point I think Pappu Saab referred to in his first slide of Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, aapko lana padega. You are that catalyst जो सबको ले आए एक ही प्लेटफॉर्म पे. And therefore one option is to look at existing skills जो already है वहां पे, जैसे secretary साहब ने बोला about farming plus या agro processing, same thing self-pruner that Atul spoke about, Gayathri spoke about. So you need to figure out what are the local opportunity linkages. वो एक option है. Second option, if you want fee-based models, market-based models, जहाँ skill loan हो, हरीश साहब बात किए banking की. Similarly, in all of this, the important thing is आपको जब तक local या industry demand, even if it is neighboring state या जो भी है, if it is not there, then the entire model of payment based model becomes difficult, because बच्चों को investment करके उसमें return नहीं मिलेगा तो they are not interested. So that is at the heart of this. When you want to do market based models, please ensure that there's a virtuous cycle of earn, learn and repay. So that has to be built in. You can look at student credit card, you can look at DBT models. In fact, I'm also very, very strongly recommending that the PMKVY was for fresh aspirants, fresh trainees. But इतने सारे already हमारे यहाँ training पा चुके हैं, उनका भी आप देखिए जो actually शायद placement किए हो, थोड़ा बहुत job opportunity हो, but under Atmanirbhar Bharat, we all saw the issues about migrants and returning migrants, and a lot of the areas which are the focus districts under this Sankalp 2 crore program is also a lot of districts where the migrants who have returned. So उनका या alumni of skills programs का आप एक fundamentally एक approach लेके उनका भी देखा जाए. So not necessarily that you need to do only fresh aspirants. And there are 2-3 models around Atmanirbharta. One is, of course, there are a whole bunch of e-marketplaces that the government itself is facilitating. Be it GEM, be it TriFed India has come up with tribal portal. KVIC has its own portal in Khadi. Then Ministry of Rural Development is coming up with the SHG portal. So there's a whole bunch of e-marketplace. There's of course supplies, works and procurements of small values that actually the district has power to kind of give out. And those can be kind of, maneuvered for these people who come out of this program. So there are possibilities that happen. We understand the, sometimes frustration that comes by being on the ground with little support, or, there are gaps in direction. So we believe honestly that that can be earned by bringing, market presence, by bringing actually final job linkages, market linkages, which have always been difficult for somebody who is in a full-time collector, cannot be sitting and doing these things. So therefore, our request and our help and our understanding on this entire fee-based model or a revenue-based model starts with closing the loop. Like Secretary Saab ne bola hai, fundamentally आप public का money लगाते हैं तो उसमें outcome होना चाहिए, impact होना चाहिए, और return on investment, social return on investment absolutely होना चाहिए. तो उसके मुताबिक वो market linkage हो in terms of jobs or product buyer linkage हो, whatever it is, fundamentally वो avenue को एक बार करने के बाद ही जो भी 2 करोड़ का प्रोजेक्ट है या प्लान है वो स्टार्ट करें. इनफैक्ट द मोमेंट यू ब्रिंग मार्केट इन, इट विल गिव यू कंप्लीट क्लैरिटी. जैसे साहब बोल रहे थे कंसल्टेंट्स बैठ के बनाना इज वन थिंग, बट एक्चुअली इफ यू आर लेटिंग द मार्केट डिसाइड कि वो 2 करोड़ किस ट्रेड में जाएगा, क्यों जाएगा, to fund what, everything will come from this entire cracking the demand side, then automatically answers will come. Nobody will put supply for the sake of supply. You need to have a market basis to determine even what the project should be, and that has been our approach, and it has worked very, very well. Just the second point on the international, in the interest of time, I'll keep it very short. I think the conventional thinking we all think is that Kerala or Tamil Nadu se bahut sare migrants jaate hain. This is data from ILO report, which is 2018. As you can see, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, which is again the target segments that you've been looking at in terms of the backward states, border states, lot of them are actually increasing in terms of immigration. And if you look at in the last decade, from 2011 to 2017, Kerala and the traditional folks have started coming down. We normally know about Kerala and Tamil Nadu. If you see 2011 to 2017 or even 15, all the south and western state, western states have come down in the migration, and it is the eastern and the northern states, especially for Middle East, that it has raised. So therefore, this entire international placement, जब आप deal करते हो, तो पहला clarity आपको होना चाहिए कि sectoral और country of migration का clarity होना चाहिए. It is good to say कि भारतीय लोग सभी जगह जाना है, but कहाँ जाना है, कौन सी trade भी जाएंगे, that clarity is absolutely vital. To be honest, given the ambition which Sankalp is working with and the initial set of 200 odd districts that you've kind of shortlisted, we honestly believe construction, Middle East, these are much existing patterns. It's much easier. It is where already a lot of work has happened. Healthcare is the second kind of vertical. So please, the idea is not to send people to Canada for education or jobs. That is not the एक आध के लिए पूरा design नहीं कर सकते हैं. We should see what is the current and existing migration patterns, immigration patterns in that district, and that's very important for you to kind of keep in mind. Second thing is, honestly, while PANIIT has managed to do first-time migrants, we've done that very firmly because it requires a different level of intervention, which honestly I'm not sure if at district level can be possible. We've cracked an employer in Middle East who was very committed to the process. They came to India. They handheld the entire training program. We also got the IIT, IFS officer who was at that point in time Consulate General in Dubai to kind of look at the Indian consulate coming on board for facilitating the entire immigration. So that can be done for first-time aspirants. But honestly, I think given where we are and what is the maturity of the current systems, I think it's simpler to start with alumni of skill program जो अच्छे कंपनी में काम कर चुके हैं, उनका second innings करना है. Because of COVID वो वापस आ गए हैं, skilled है, लेकिन उनको प्लेसमेंट नहीं होती है abroad. तो recruiting agent के जरिए who are good, NSDC international अभी आ गया है, whole bunch of initiatives and partners are there who can actually be utilized to kind of conduct trade tests, immigration tests. Of course, we've just started on 27 3 days back the entire flight to world over. So I think in about 6 months the whole situation should normalize. होने के बाद, of course, Middle East में oil again growing, so there is always the economy is going to boom. So I think there are possibilities, but keep in mind that this might not be for first-time aspirants, and this should be done in trades which already have an existing historical background in the corresponding district. Lastly, please keep in mind कि candidate level economics बहुत important चीज होती है. आप लोग, we don't realize, हम आसानी से बोलते हैं कि भाई 25,000 इनको दीजिए, 30,000 उनको दीजिए. In fact, one of the things we are very firmly talking to NSDC about is in Japan, 10,000 fee हमको दीजिए. हम बोल रहे 10,000 गरीब कहाँ से देंगे? We have to think through some of these. So therefore, the important thing is also to figure out the candidate level economics. इनको कितना salary बन रहा है? What is the cost of immigration? Are they getting to a debt trap? And these are some things from an international migration perspective. Please keep in mind. Again, this is something which the collectors will be very thrilled if you guys can facilitate some of these things. So मेरा request ये होगा कि while I understand the frustration कि district level पे सब हो सकता है, lot of it is also lying where we are, how much change you individually through the IIM network and the wonderful background that you all come from can bring about. So I will leave you with Gandhiji's thought, where fundamentally to change the world, we have to change oneself. So हमारा वो पहला step ले जो market को हम district पे लाए, ताकि fundamentally the entire virtuous cycle which is market dependent will market dependent model will start happening in skills and entrepreneurship. That's it from my side, and thank you again.
Thank you, Kalyan, for comprehensive view of what can possibly be done, and especially like looking at candidate level economics, and they're trained in a manner which they don't really fall into that trap. And what are some of the best practices? Thank you very much for your time. Now we open this floor for discussions. We request the program directors of the IIMs in case they have questions for.
Kalyan sir, can you please give us back the host right?
Yeah, let me figure that out.
Okay. So we're going to open it up in a short while for the program directors to interact, and we here too might have to get on some of the talks that is a technical glitch we're trying for.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Program directors from the IIMs, I request you to ask your questions in case you have specific questions about. And please let us know where you're talking at, where you're, which IIM you represent, and who your question is addressed to. Sir is will be joining from his chamber.
So I am there, so I am there. So I will be just giving that one. Please.
Sir, this is Professor Gaurav from IIM Ranchi. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sir, some of the issues regarding this aspirational project funds. So, first thing, if there is some more clarity about guidelines, in terms of what exactly is expected from project proposals. So there were certain dynamic changes. So what fellows designed initially, they had to make some last minute changes. So that was the first issue that they faced, that the CSR funding that they need to have additional one was not aware before. So suddenly in the last week, they couldn't search for a partners who can collaborate, and those issues they faced. Otherwise, at idea level, many of them came up with good ideas. But finally, what they submitted were very different, because in that 2-3 weeks, many things got changed in between. So if we can get that time again to redesign, I think many people with more clarity on project designs might be able to contribute. Second thing, sir, fellows many times design something, but then that has to go through. I mean, it's not that exactly a district skill committees are that much active. So more or less the path becomes their district mentors and district collectors forwarding. So wherever district is in full trust or faith on fellow, the ideas get accepted as it is. Otherwise, ideas get institutionalized according to, what is a collect. So it's not necessarily they have that autonomy. So first is a design expertise, whether fellows have or clarity that they have. Second is that if they have that, whether they have that autonomy to submit the proposal as they want. I think that was a second issue that they faced. Third was the timeline of the project was very short for some of them. So 6-month outcome-driven project for a 2 crore fund, where many of the fellows were probably first time designing a project at this scale of 2 crore. I think that was something that was challenging. And I mean, so therefore the boundaries of the project. So I think the workshop that you have conducted today was very helpful to get insight from people who are expert in a skill domain. A similar one-day workshop on designing, how to design, what is exact expectation. I know there were 2 sessions that were conducted, but many things were a bit dynamic at the last point of time. So I think the reason for maybe what you did not find of the great quality also had bit dynamic factors that came into picture. But my sincere feedback is that the fellows were much excited to work on innovative projects, and if this can be, relook into, how we can go about resubmitting the projects with a better guidelines. I think that would be great. And another aspect is that spending of this fund, because typically all projects are bounded by various rules, regulations, tendering and everything. There are also suggestions that how you can spend this fund. So many boundaries were there. So on one side, we are expecting them to be innovative, risk-taking. And on other side, there were issues that they faced while designing. That was my feedback while interacting with all aspirational district fellows while submitting these proposals.
So, what you're asking for is an extension?
No, they're asking for, if I may intervene here. See, the key purpose of this exercise was to, give you some takeaways where the fellows as well as the IIM directors and the mentors, they understand what are the main activities, what are the modalities for submission of projects. And yes, as you rightly said, the time was 28th Feb. But now, since we are looking at a redesign, revisiting the whole project proposals, I think we have to go back in time and we'll give you a template, a model template again. But that template will not serve a purpose because it's going to be different for different districts and funding partners. So I think a timeline will be issued shortly, but innovation and the connect between industry and the district administration is where the engineers has to actually prove his mettle. Anything else to say?
Sure. I mean, ma'am, I think initially, very honestly, idea level, many fellows were coming up with good idea. When those ideas go at district level, when it is discussed with the district mentors or DCs, at times they go with traditional approach of what can be done. I mean, their experiences with the projects which fit well with the system. So that was with face for maybe one such similar conference with aspirational district collectors would also help, because they are the main stakeholders. So I mean, somewhere finally it boils down to the district ecosystem, how they want to take it forward. MGNF fellows are, I mean, some who are very close, I mean, where district collectors are trusting them, they are able to contribute. Other cases, it become very much dependent on district ecosystem, how much they can really innovate and put forward their idea. So somewhere that collaborative forum where MGNF fellows and some district representatives are there, maybe a pre-workshop before submitting a final proposal might help to reduce that discrepancy in voices.
This is Arnav from I'm Bangalore. I would like to first thank the ministry by sort of convening this forum. I think this is very interesting, exciting, and I think it's very idea generating. I would like to ask all our speakers who have spoken today, when they sort of engage in the district or when they engage in the rural economy, who is their catalyst outside of their own organization in building these partnerships, and how do those relationships fructify so that they can keep them healthy in a space and age where government machinery changes rapidly with new officers coming into place. We could perhaps learn from the wisdom of our speakers in terms of trying to see how MGNF can internalize some of these kinds of synergies so that we can stabilize the kind of ideas that are being proposed. Thanks.
Yeah, Manish, can I take that question from Arnab?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Manish, Arnab, we work with partners who have got a lot of credibility in the local community. Partners are NGOs which have worked in the community for the last 20 years, 30 years, maybe in one area, 2 areas, 3 areas. Maybe they're working on non-timber forest produce, maybe they're working in agriculture, maybe they're working in health. Now, these organizations have got the trust and credibility of the local community. So when we work with these kind of people who understand the local needs of the community, and then we are able to work with them to prioritize what are the needs. So the young fellows, MGNF fellows are working, and if they're attached to a local partner like that, an NGO, who are able to, and the young fellows should be able to appreciate, really immerse and understand what are the priorities, listen to them, observe, understand sometimes unstated needs, prioritize them, and then you start understanding what define your problem statement. So don't try to top down just because district collector or somebody is trying to say that this is what we want to know. What does the community want? What are the exact patterns, anti-patterns in that community? Define the problem statement, seek different solutions. That is what we call divergence. And then convergence, what is the appropriate solution? But seek out the local wisdom of these local partners who already been there. And then, we can work together to put in the catalytic funding required to start or spur up such an initiative. This is, I'm telling you this because we have done mistakes. We also launched a fellowship program. In Mission Samriddhi, we had a Mission Samriddhi Action Research Project. We called it MSHARP, Mission Samriddhi Holistic Action, in association with NIRDPR, Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Now, young fellows are going in directly with all good intentions. They're trying to be catalysts, but you cannot win the trust of the community. It takes time. Now, you have to build that credibility in the community. But working with partners who already been there and done that, and the young fellows can be associated with partners, and you break into the community, listen, observe, understand the problem statement, and then work it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. I think this is a very valid session, and I'll leave it to Professor Arnab to comment on it. But I think we also feel very strongly that working with somebody who's already active there and who has connection and the network, I think that's very, very important for bringing other actors in the same district, or maybe people from outside the district together. Project can be run down. So I think that is one key takeaway for all of us here, that only other than starting afresh with agencies which have no connects and with the community in particular, or also for the district, I think it's not a great idea. Over to you.
Sorry, Manish, I missed. What's the question?
No, so basically, one suggestion that is being made is that working with partners who already have local presence or some projects going on, I think there's a merit in partnering with.
So I think our experience from phase one shows us that most of our fellows, when they get ideas, they're getting these ideas by speaking to people outside of the office space. So for example, when we look at the creation of the GI tag for Tangalia shawls in Gujarat, that's coming from the Tangalia sort of shawl weaving community who's lost out its market potential because their GI tag expired. And the MGNF, although I keep hearing that the MGNF fellows have done nothing, there's a fairly large evidence of our first phase fellows actually building on a number of these very, very small micro initiatives that have stabilized a bunch of different things across the board, including in many of the first phase districts. There were actually meetings for the district skill committees prior to the fellows getting deployed. So I think the very agency of the DSC is very dependent on the fellows being in residence and asking questions along the way. But as we go forward, I think making projects go from the idea stage to the sort of implementation stage seems to be something that needs to go through a process of ideation, engagement within the community, engagement within the district administrative ecosystem for buy-in, and at the same time, in parallel, thinking about funding. I mean, most of these kinds of, greenfield project ideas are essentially ideas which are not in the standard matching of, demand supply of, skills, demand supply of existing jobs, but are in the space of trying to create new opportunities and new potential. And so almost all of them would require an investment of some sort, either bringing the market closer, as Gayathri Vasudevan was mentioning, or thinking about various other kinds of platforms which would sort of unlock the potential of people. So I think we need to think about where we are headed in terms of many of these projects. What is the long-term goal line that's possible? So there are local challenges of what is feasible. There are funding challenges of what's adoptable. And there is also challenges in terms of how to negotiate the political economy of the administrative culture, which I think comments on the chat box from Professor Kanitkar sort of reflects very well some of the challenges that many of our existing fellows have faced in phase 2 in the last 6 months. So I think, I'm trying to sort of do two things here. I'm trying to say this is a great idea, and B, I think we need to be a little realistic about the ecosystem in which we are trying to function, because there are some serious challenges. And so the lack of, a funded project is not necessarily the lack of, ideas being sort of curated or ideas not being. So I think, I don't know who was the speaker, but there was this idea of, creating incubation centers for success and failures. If we were to incubate our sort of conversation on those lines, I think we'd have a lot of entries on that.
There were many who were voicing that kind of opinion, but I think Harish said it very, very clearly that this fear of failure has got to be taken out, and for that, maybe.
No, not fear of failure. I'm saying go ahead, fail, and let's document the failure.
Yeah, and fail. Correct.
Why did we fail?
Yeah.
I think we learned from successes which sort of are remarkable, actually. And since we're a large country, we seem to get a lot of success. In numbers, not in percentage terms. But I think there are even more, and I think systematic failures that we run into when trying to create these changes. And I'm really sort of happy to see so many foundations sort of coming in and willing to share their sort of sense of cumulative failures and the ways they have also succeeded. So so kudos to all of you guys for putting that on the table. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Hello everyone. Can I speak for a few minutes? Thank you for organizing this roundtable. I think we have floated so many good ideas and have talked about and thought about so many things that have clear implications on MGNF. I think lots of issues and challenges have been already discussed. One thing I want to, I think, probably reiterate is that these kind of forums actually creates another stir of motivation or directions. And if those kind of events can also be done for the district ecosystem, specifically district collector who heads the district skill committee, it might actually help create another stir, probably constant stir in the district ecosystems as well, because somehow with all my interaction during academic module 2 with all of our fellows, one thing that all of us requested in continuously was that can we have some way in which the identity of fellows in the district ecosystem can be reinforced, where they recognized. Another thing was that if district skill committees as well as district collector, if they also get into touch and have synergy with the vision of MGNF program, the synergy that MSD has, that probably can also ease out the day-to-day operations, functioning and contributions of MGNF fellows. So I don't know how to operationalize it. I think you're the best resource to think about it, but probably some communication, some vision sharing. I'm sure you have been doing that, but can we refresh that continuously so that it stays in the system?
Coming back to what you're getting at, I would just like to reinforce here that maybe if we have a set of ideas in place, which the IIM could also coordinate, have a set of ideas and a set of location-specific activities which we are looking at. Maybe the MGNFs can give you that kind of a. You're looking at a certain number of states and a certain number of fellows. If you could have those ideas first, on one platform, then maybe there's a forum for IIMs also to interact with the collectors.
We will be happy to create that kind of what you can say, a platform from our side as well.
The groundwork has to be in place before we actually set talking to them, because we need some ideas first. We need to refine those ideas, and our Sankalp team is always there, and we are always willing to participate in whichever interactions you may like to host. Because getting 117, 112 DMs on a platform without a specific purpose in mind, I don't think it will lead us anywhere.
Oh no, that's why the implementation, but I don't think I'm any good in suggesting any idea. I know division wise, state wise, I don't know how it will be done. But some way where we initiate thinking about how this communication can be established. That was the point.
But what is your feedback about any specific projects which you think are really doable?
We had district immersion workshops during academic module 2, where all of the fellows presented their vision of initial thoughts on district skill development plans, and some of them were very good. So I think that fellows, for example, I think if we look at from the perspective of fellows, they feel that even if we are doing something really great, how can we make sure that it get implemented, get into picture? What if when we leave, what will happen to our ideas? Will it be so that faith, that trust? I know, I mean, you understand it better than me. So that's why I was saying that there is some communication can probably reinforce some faith in fellows as well, that okay, whatever they are doing, whatever they are creating as a resource or outcome of 2 years, that will be taken forward. But no, I understand the implementation challenges here. Probably let me think about it. from, and go back to the fellows as well. If I will come up with something, and then we'll discuss again. But I'm just floating this idea so that you can also think about it and get.
We've noted this point.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think there's one question that has been asked quite a few times is, I think quite a few fellows have asked this, that the kind of guidelines that they were sent and their understanding of creating projects is very different from the ideas that have been discussed today. See, there's actually no contradiction in the ideas that were discussed today and also what we expect to do. In absence of an idea marketplace, we actually wanted to put some of the sectoral experts and people who have done projects in partnership with the government, both at the local level, also central level. We wanted to put them to you in order to derive some inspiration from how can this possibly be done. Reach out to people who have done similar projects in the past and try and use maybe their influence, their energy, their knowledge, their presence in the districts, and try and partner them and put together that in form of a project. So we got people, just to find you, we actually got people who have been working in the area of student co-paying the fees. Got Atul, who was specifically talking about how can the private sector funding be used for a program like this, and you can reach out to him. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help you share with the email IDs of all the experts who were here. Reach out to them and see that. Gayathri said she will be willing to maybe help a few districts in case they have some idea or they actually want to. So this is, the idea was to just put you to some of the sectoral experts, foundations, etc. We're trying to enable you, trying to facilitate it as much as possible. I'm sure this will not be the end of it. We'll actually do pretty similar workshops in the future also. But the idea is to really sort of put you to these, expose you to some of these ideas. And I'm sure IIMs themselves have a huge network when they can actually bring in people who are working in social sector, people who are actually working in with organizations that will be able to help, that will be able to fund ideas and code. So there's no contradiction in what we sent out, in what we expect you to do, and what has been discussed today. Next.
May I come in, Manish?
Yeah, Professor.
Yeah. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for organizing it. I think this is something which, in fact, came at a very right time. We were thinking about it not only for aspirational districts or other districts, but all the districts which are under IIM Visakhapatnam, because of only one district immersion. What we felt is there is a huge need of micro entrepreneurship which needs to be pushed in at various district level to really amalgamate this, because there's a lot of disconnect between local supply and demand. And if at all demand has to be created, we cannot just train people on certain skills, but rather generate entrepreneurship opportunities in those districts. And this debate which has started through today with a lot of stimulating thought which feeds into that planning which we were trying to do. A couple of things which I'd like to know or understand in little more detail from ministry, that you have now a revised timeline. So if you can let us know the timelines, also a little more detailed about the kind of engagement you want to have in terms of public-private partnership which can be brought in. And at the same time, see, for example, let's say this is a case of a fellow at a district which has such a requirement of project, but at the same time there are also fellows who are competing and doing the same program with certain deliverables. Then we need to also plan for them so that their requirement in terms of deliverables during the district immersion or academic deliverables can be swapped. For example, let's say we have essay or a case which they have to submit. This project proposal itself is a good amount of work which they need to do, right? As we talked about, that it cannot be from the desk to as a plan. Rather, it has to be bottoms up, where you try to understand the aspiration and engage those different stakeholders and communities to understand and then plan something for them which they also buy in, right? I can for example, I'll give an example of a district, one product, one district. There's a district called East Champaran, and they have picked a product called lychee. Now, lychee is only produced in very small portion of the entire district, but the quality of the lychee is good, but which is fine. The rest of the entire district does not do lychee, correct? So if it is not bottoms up, then if we plan and do something sitting on the desk, then it may not really translate into mass movement, or people will not get connected to those programs or project proposal which was given. So therefore, this also merits that we reduce or kind of do a balancing act on the load which these fellows have in their district when we plan for those activities, right? So I think that is something which needs to be informed, so that we can also plan for it. Otherwise, what happens? It's just an additional responsibility to the fellows, and they just want to complete the responsibility. One, they may not have big oversight overview. Good that we invited fellows also in this forum today, so at least they have now a bird's eye view of what your vision is, what you're planning. But I think that is something which also needs to be communicated to us, so that we also start planning and dedicating resources to do that. For example, we have an incubation center here. We can put certain mentoring sessions for the incubation center, so that they can generate district level incubation hubs and support the district authority and amalgamate this whole project at a planning level. Bringing private partners may take a lot of time, right? If we are looking at private partners which has to do investments in tunes of crores, that may also take time. And if it has to go with as part of the project proposal, then again we have to know that what is the timeline we are looking for putting up a good proposal, right? I mean, I can put some 3-4 proposals, but then again, does it really translate into somebody coming on board who is really invested into it, or who is really wanting to work on that? For example, a particular trust or a particular CSR group which focuses on women and empowerment, or which focuses on education, which focuses on livelihood. Can I find somebody who is willing, and their interest and their CSR policy allow them to invest in a particular district, in a particular state? So all that will need a little bit of time and planning at a more macro and a micro level as well. So I think maybe I'll just request Secretary Sahab and all the members sitting there to pick up a practical timeline, and also when you have given us this as a good forum where we discussed it, a lot of ideas have come up. Allow us also to come up with plans in which we can share that how we can implement it in a better way, and ensure that fellows come up with a very robust and beautiful plan of utilizing this 2 crore rupees which is given to the districts.
At this point, in the meanwhile, I had also talked with 2 IIM directors.
Indeed.
And last 2-3 months, I have met a number of IIM directors, IIM chairpersons in my room, in the Honorable Minister's room, and had very lively interaction with some of them. And frankly, last month, in the basically DSDP awards, we had very robust interaction with 30 best plans for collectors and MGNF fellows who made presentations together. So my feeling is, and I have been district magistrate in Maharashtra long back, and I am also Prabhari for, I was Prabhari till I became secretary for Nandurbar district in Maharashtra from Niti Aayog side. And we had close interaction with a lot of foundations and MGNF fellows. Many states have CM fellows. So frankly, about 20% DMs are sort of inaccessible or overloaded with other things, or for them skill is like not on their priority list. But in 80%, it depends a lot on our MGNF fellow also to reach out to people to make his or her presence felt. And we have randomly spoken to some MGNF fellows. Minister has also rang up randomly some MGNF fellows. And we keep on getting the kind of feedback which when IIM professor was giving. So, but this forum is frankly for taking things forward. Yes, the ideas are there. You can even Google any idea. You can Google something and you will get a million research. So there's no dearth of idea. But sitting with district machinery, reaching out to local NGOs, local communities, local farmer champions, for example, the PAN IIT for ITINs, that kind of forum, PAN IIT forum. So they also indicated a lot of good ideas. So it depends on the MGNF fellows. One is understanding of the ground reality. Second, reaching out to the correct officers. And sometimes if collector is sort of busy, you have to find which officer in the district collectorate sort of is happy chatting with you. It could be planning officer, it could be Zilla Parishad CEO, somewhere it could be even be SP of the police. So you just have to find your ground. There are a lot of tribal agencies working. So there are so many people working in the field and so many champion farmers and a lot of other people. Many good teachers are there in the district. So you just have to reach out to people, and I'm sure you will find 5, 6, 7, 8 activities, 5, 6, 7, 8 people with whom MGNF fellows can sort of strike good rapport.
Can I?
And, and second, my request to IIMs present here is that you also please reach out to the district machinery. If you organize a conference in your IIM for, let us say you reach out to 40, let us say you are dealing with 40 districts. So reach out to 40 DMs, invite them for a 2-day workshop, stay in IIM, and say that if the collector is busy, he may nominate some other officer. And I am sure I have seen in Maharashtra that when you invite collectors, when an IIM invites collectors, half of them will definitely reach out to Chief Secretary. Ki sir, mujhe jana hai 2 din. It's a good workshop. Please allow me to go. Collectors also need permission of the Chief Secretary or their divisional commissioner to go. But I am sure 50% of them will land up. So my request to IIMs also, if some breaking of ice is needed at some places. Frankly, that's not the situation. I know IIM professors who are, due to this program, they have become pally with 5, 6 district magistrates. So it is for you guys also to reach out to some collectors. Many of them are young. Frankly, about 20% of the district magistrates may even be IIM graduates. So reach out to them. Yeah, please, Lucknow.
Good afternoon. You know, it was a nice workshop and a lot of good ideas came up. But at the same time, Secretary Sahib, I just want to put it in perspective. Okay, we will, as per your suggestion, we will reach out to our alumni network also. And I'd slightly disagree with Harish out there. There's a lot of IIM alumni network people who are abreast with what's happening in rural areas. A lot of IIM alumni are working in the rural areas, and they have a good understanding of the situation there. So we'll at least try to get those on board. But at the same time, what we have noticed is the ideas for this, aspirational districts and backward districts have to be rooted through the district administration. And I know a couple of fellows, because when they were last month, they were at IIM Lucknow for that academic module 2. And we went through the district indicators workshop, and a couple of things that came out very clearly was the idea was something else, and ultimately they actually interacted with local champions, came up with an idea, but what ultimately was submitted was slightly different because the district administration made them change it. Ki ye ho nahi sakta, aap hamari baat suno and let's not do it. So what has come to you, and when you say the ideas are not so very good, maybe not the original ideas which the fellows had got in consultation with the district champions, but the fact remains that they have to report to the district administration. So it's very difficult for them to, not to agree to the changes as requested by the district administration. Otherwise, it will not go forward. That's one thing that came across. That's one thing that came across. So I would request here, how do we tackle this situation where ultimately the ministry has got already good intention of getting ideas from the ground, but as they get filtered up, maybe it's the ideas what the district people want that ultimately come to you, and not maybe what was originally thought about or what was really thought about it. So that disconnect does happen by the time it comes to you.
Yeah, excellent. So I will ask all MGNF fellows if basically you had some different ideas, or after sending the proposal you have sort of some new things to do. Please send that list directly also to Manish and Anuradha in ministry. So it's not like bypassing the district machinery. We will then reach out to collectors and say that from ministry side, we feel this could be done, this could be done. Let's add this to the project. So do that horizontal thing. So if you are working through a very strict hierarchy to send the things to us, I would suggest that in the mails to district, take us in the loop. And if something gets dropped out and you feel that's an important activity, please send that. Second, in the chat, I was looking at all the chats. And yes, sometimes you can send a half-baked fuzzy kind of project that let's start with 3 activities amounting to whatever X amount. And we'll say, okay, let's initiate the project. Then we will keep on adding activities as the, I think, progresses. So let's not wait for a summation of 2 crore or 1 crore or whatever. You want to do 2 small things with the help of a good agency. Let's go ahead with that. So it's like a work in progress kind of thing. So rather than a one project very perfect, and let's not do that.
And just one feedback sharing that we tried 3 or 4 workshops with district officials. So we got them to do 3 or 4 projects. And what we noticed is
sorry, requesting others to please mute mics.
Yeah,
I'm also muting my mic, requesting others also, please. Yeah,
so Amdafna did try to do. We did about 4 workshops with the DCs and district coordinators and the CDOs. And what we did notice, at least in Uttar Pradesh, was that the people who came for the workshop, at least the experience of the fellows at the respective places was better subsequently. So that experience, I agree with you that that did work, at least in UP in some cases.
Thank you, Professor Garg.
okay, and I also must give feedback that in the previous first batch, which sort of graduated this early this month only, we are taking about 30 of them at the state levels, at NISBERD. So Anuradha, kitne liye? 30, 32 hai na?
32, sir.
32 of them we are deploying for a year, 2 years at in our RDSD or NISBERD office or so on. So we want to, I have been reading the comments. So I must share that when I joined IAS and 30 years back, I landed in Thane district. I did not know Marathi in Maharashtra. So I also did not find a sitting space. I had no house to live. I had no vehicle. So you learn through these things. So it is the adversities in life which actually teach you what real life is about. So life is also always not a bed of roses, and bed of roses is not the best place to teach you about real life. So मैं अभी भी जाता हूँ, तो I have an option to stay in a 5-star hotel or stay somewhere, but I sometimes go to students' hostels and stay there. So why not? So in the district, as district magistrate, I would go to a lot of villages and stay with the sarpanch or stay in a primary school pathshala. So that's how you learn. So an MGNF fellow with his laptop or mobile can be a potent weapon. So look at it that way. Yeah, please carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all the participants for delivering a formal. We have the director.
Manish, one last request. Although it has been addressed, but it will be a good idea, although very repetitive, but it will be a great idea if the MSD, ministry keeps sending, maybe after very periodic, after 30 days or 45 days, keep sending a communication to at least, the district officials that this is a very important program and it's been taken very seriously about it, and the fellow should be facilitated. That's just a request, Beyond that, of course, we don't know anything, but at least keep reinforcing that. At least keep reinforcing that.
I think we in all communication try and do that. And as Secretary has suggested, Professor Garg, you are already doing that. You are already calling officials from the district for the MDPs and actually talking to them. I think that's a very good practice, developing network directly with the officials who are posted in the district. keep doing it. Sir, if you want to say something.
Yeah, okay, let me share my mobile number with everyone. If anyone has grievances, 9999835353. I repeat, 9999835353. But my request to everyone is that there is a forum for grievances. There is a forum for meaningful civilized discussions. So whether it's our WhatsApp forum, or whether it's our video conference, it's for meaningful civilized discussions. Grievances from MGNF fellows, I have given you my mobile number. You can reach out to me. If any IIM feels we need to do much more or whatever, my mobile number is there. So IIM directors, IIM professors, IIM coordinators dealing with this program, I would be most happy to interact with you in a very brutally frank manner. So, but
can you once again repeat the number, sir?
Yeah, 9999 835353.
Thank you very much.
And I am always available on WhatsApp, though not so much on calls, but on WhatsApp immediately. Okay, and my request to all MGNF fellows is that keep the WhatsApp forum clean, keep the communication channels very clean and civilized. And for grievances, there are different methods. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We've clearly overshot the time. Sir, for this. I have to thank the Secretary for kind guidance on organization come to and economy village domestic product under my and I'd like to thank my Secretary Madam. I heard from the Labournet, Samriddhi, SELCO, PANIIT, Piramal and Ecociate, along with the central team of the energy, Directive of Mission Samriddhi, and proceed further in this. Thanks to all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.